Hola, friends and fans. Christy from Happy and Healthy TV with you guys tonight. Filming another 100 Days of a Girl with Lyme documentary. Today we're on day 19. So, there's a few things I wanted to talk to you all about today. I just sounded like I was from down south. No offense to Southerners. Anyhow, Lyme has been in the news quite a lot, obviously, because we have Lyme Disease Awareness Month, and my goal had been to put out a Lyme awareness video just about every day for the rest of this month as a tribute to, what this month means to us Limeys. So I've got about 4 bullet points I want to run through today that are very important to me. So, and to other Limeys as well. So, number one thing, Under Our Skin 2 has come out. You can check that out on YouTube. You can check it out in quite a few different places. It was free actually up until May 10th. So I believe today's the last day you can get it on Vimeo, Vimeo.com, is allowing people to view that video up until midnight on the 10th, which is today. It's I'm coming to you guys at about 1:30 in the morning from New York. So you have until 12 p.m. Eastern time, or 12 a.m. Eastern time actually, to view that at no charge. I highly recommend watching it. I did go ahead at the suggestion of another fellow Limey and watch that the other evening. And I've seen Under Your Skin 1. Under Your Skin 2 is really just a great documentary. And what I found to be interesting in it was great. There were some success stories of people getting better. They had re-featured some people on that particular documentary from the previous one. And it was really amazing to see. What I thought was interesting was that there were a lot of issues with people breaking off of relationships as a result to Lyme. There was one story about a husband with 2 children who's unfortunately, I guess his wife was not able to handle his illness and what was going on. So, as a result, unfortunately, he got divorced, and it was just a sad, sad story. And personally, I've experienced that as well. So I wanted to bring that up because, as we all know, Lyme can be very isolating, and especially when people don't know. Again, there's no true, as we all know, no clear-cut treatment protocols, and there are a lot of confusing missed sources of information out there. Let's just put it that way. That creates issues for people. So I think that is important to bring up. There was another story about a young lady who had gotten married a couple of years prior. I remember when I first watched Under Your Skin 1, and yes, same thing with her. Her husband was not able to handle, and he actually wound up getting a divorce or she wound up getting a divorce herself, sadly. So, but the good news is that the 2 people in the video are thriving, and fortunately seem to be doing fairly better, after spending like thousands and thousands of dollars on treatment. So, highly, highly recommend for you guys to check out Under Our Skin 2, again, which is free for viewing up until the midnight Eastern Standard Time on May 10th. So, this video will be published the morning of May 10th, or actually very early in the morning on May 10th. So, hopefully, you guys are able to view that. I'll post this around. So, that was one thing. Highly recommend watching that. The second thing I wanted to go over today that I thought was really important. We've been talking about this for quite a while in terms of my Lyme support groups and then just other practitioners who I work with who specialize in Lyme. It is no longer considered okay to donate your organs if you have Lyme disease. I'm going to explain why. There's been controversy about this for quite a while. I actually have my license with my organ donor card. I figure, God forbid, I pass away in a car accident. I obviously don't need to take my organs with me. Somebody else can certainly use them. Although I have to say, throughout all the things I've been through, not sure how much left is really usable there that's going to work well. So, reluctantly, I actually had to call motor vehicle today and ask them to take me off. When I explained to the woman why I wanted to be taken off of the donor list, or donate blood. That's another thing. The American Red Cross is not screening blood for Lyme disease at this point in time. Now, if you look at what we have talked about in the past, Lyme is considered what we Limeys call the AIDS of the 2000s. There are a lot of documented research articles showing that Lyme can be sexually transmitted. So I think that's really important to bring out. Obviously, my late daughter had passed away from congenital Lyme. So, I just find that to be very interesting. So not only can you not give blood, which is something I used to do pretty frequently before I had gotten sick, I wouldn't take blood from anybody in New York State right now at this point. Give me FFP or other blood types of factors, which certainly is not good as real blood. But I think that's important to bring up. There was a post that popped up on here from Facebook, and this is from my dear pal Holly Nicole, who runs a support group called. Oh my God, I just had a Lyme brain moment, guys. I'm sorry. Um, the Lyme struggle. I don't know. I'm gonna post the link to Allie's group on here because she just runs such an excellent group. I just love her to pieces. Anyway, let me show you what this post says. I want to make this post larger so this way you guys can see it. And this was put out, like I said, for this month. So unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to flip my camera back around after I've started to film. So let me just go ahead and I'm just going to switch my camera around so hopefully you guys can see my computer well enough and see this post here. Okay, so I'm actually going to back this up a bit. And we'll try doing this way. Okay, so if you guys can see that, Lyme disease awareness. You cannot donate your blood or organs if you have Lyme or a co-infection patient, and then it lists all the organs. Blood and organs are not screened. You can pass Lyme and co-infections to another person. So there we go right there with that really sad, unfortunate thing. I mean, as a practitioner who always wants to help people, again, I find that to be, it's a little sad. So, I did want to bring that up. So, again, blood is not screened at this time through the American Red Cross. It is quite sad. So that's something to take a look at. On another note, let's talk about deer. I love deer. I happen to think they're the cutest animals. As a matter of fact, when I was a child, my favorite movie was Bambi. In my son's room, I still have a Bambi poster floating around, which I think is funny. Love the little guys. I won't go near a deer at this point. There are quite a lot of them by my house, and there's an article in USA Today, which I will include a link to at the bottom of this video. And the article is entitled, "Those Deer on Your Lawn, They're Delivering," what are they delivering? They're delivering disease, ridden ticks on your doorstep. This article is by John Hather, and again, he's with USA Today. And this was published actually on May 7th, so this is a very recent article. What this article says, and I'll go ahead and read this for you, as I usually do for you guys. CDC says tick-borne illnesses have now tripled. Okay, so the CDC is acknowledging there's a problem here. Are you removing ticks correctly? Here's everything you need to know about ticks and how you can combat Lyme disease, just the FAQs. And I'm not going to get into that because we talk about that on other videos. But the article goes on to say, one professor calls it a hidden threat. Blood-sucking ticks can carry an array of diseases, hitch rides on deer as the mammals multiply across the country, popping up in forest parks and even on our front lawns. I've seen a lot of deer in my backyard, on my front lawn. They like to hang out. They are not afraid of people. They're pretty used to us at this point. Do you know how many times they're so cute, I wanted to go up and pet one. Obviously it's a wild animal, I respect them, but they'll let you come right up to them. It's particularly at the beach by my home, so we see them often. The article goes on to say, that probably means ticks are in more places than ever in the United States in 2019, said Thomas Mather, a University of Rhode Island the entomologist known as the tick guy. I gotta look him up. So Thomas Mather at University of Rhode Island, putting out good information. And that means, and that could mean more Americans are at risk for tick-borne illness such as Lyme disease. Yeah, no shit. Sorry for my profanity. The phenomena of deer in more places and in ever-increasing proximity to people is, I think, the largest factor in affecting ticks in deer more places. Wow, that was just really weird. Why did that just happen? Sorry, guys. I'm really good with the computer, but sometimes I press buttons on accident. Okay, let's go back to where I was. Hold on. Okay. Largest factor in affecting ticks in more places trend, said Mather, who calls it springtime, almost a perfect storm for ticks. Mather runs Rhode Island's Tick Encounter Index. I'm also going to post an article about that. Wow, this article keeps moving everywhere without me moving the computer. This is so funny. Mather runs Rhode Island's Tick Encounter Index, which monitors tick populations based on data from volunteers across the country. The continental USA is listed for high activity through May 15th, except for 3 states, California, Oregon, and Washington. I'm going to disagree with that. There are tons and tons and tons of reported Lyme cases in California. There are cases in Oregon. There are cases all across the country. So I don't know where they're coming up with that figure, to be quite frank with you. The California version of Lyme disease, as you guys all know from my previous videos, is Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So yeah, there's plenty of people. I've talked to people on a daily basis from California who have Lyme and have treated patients in the past prior to knowing what Lyme was who had Rocky Mountain spotted fever. So it is there. There are cases reported in Washington State. Oregon, so sorry guys, I don't really know what's going on with Oregon, but there are definitely cases reported there, as far as I know. So, let's see. Mr. Mather goes on to say, having all kinds of computer things going on today. Computer is playing a video from this article, and I do not want to play the video. We just want to read the article without being bothered by the video. Let's try that again. Mather traced the uptick primarily to the hidden threat of deer moving closer and closer to where we live. He pointed to his son, a Boston suburbanite, who sees deer in his tree-lined neighborhood. America's deer population boomed over the past century, from dwindling numbers in 1900 to about 33.5 million in 2017, a population larger than Texas. Oh my goodness, there's lots of the little creatures. The more commonly you see deer in the area, the more likely it is that you're going to see ticks. Like I said, tons of deer in my area. As a matter of fact, the deer population got so bad that they actually started killing deer, which is sad. You know, and it's interesting, where I would go running typically, I used to see deer all the time. I haven't seen one in a while, so I presume that that's what they're doing at this point. That was what was reported in the news in my area, and I live in on eastern Long Island. So if that gives anybody a clue there. Now the article goes on further to say Lyme disease could hit the 2 million mark next year. I wagered a bet, as I've talked to other people, that figure is actually smaller, or not as well estimated as we'd like to think. Black-legged ticks or deer ticks have pretty strong numbers in New England, the Mid-Atlantic, and Upper Midwest, says Mather, who's heard from volunteers in the region. Black-legged ticks that carry Lyme disease are, quote-unquote, far and away the most responsible for tick-borne diseases, he said. Tick-borne disease cases more than doubled from 2004 to 2016, according to the CDC, and Lyme disease accounted for 82% of all these cases. Jeez. Next year, the number of people with tick-borne disease could hit almost 2 million nationwide, scientists said in the peer-reviewed journal of B as in boy, M as in Mary, C as in cat, Public Health. The disease's symptoms include fever, headaches, skin rashes. That doesn't always happen, as we know, the CDC said, but untreated infections can spread to the heart, joints, and the nervous system. Hi, that is me. My Lyme has spread to my heart. I've been fortunate. It does not really bother my joints. I'm very fortunate in that. Nervous system, yeah, I have autonomic and central nervous system damage, so I can definitely attest to that piece of things. The article goes further on to say, it's not just black-legged ticks that you have to worry about. Lone Star ticks and Gulf Coast ticks carrying less common diseases are on the move in certain regions, Mather said. And these types of ticks all have one thing in common. They utilize white-tailed deer as a blood source in some part of their life cycle, he said. America's booming deer population can be traced to fewer predators, fewer hunters, hunting regulations, and new spaces. Think lush parks and suburban landscapes that let deer thrive, said Anthony DiNicola, the president of White Buffalo, a Connecticut-based nonprofit group dispatched to cull deer herds everywhere from Tony suburbs to all of Staten Island. Efforts to manage deer have been too little, too late, DiNicola said, and quiet residential areas have let deer become more comfortable, shedding ticks near people's doorsteps. You're shoveling against the tide, he said. What's needed is a paradigm change, DiNicola said. For Americans to view deer less like majestic Bambis, funny I mentioned that earlier, and more like health threats that spread diseases. Oh, poor deer. They don't mean to hurt people. Then it goes into how to avoid ticks in your yard and on your body. You obviously keep deer away, wear tick repellent clothing. If you've been outside, check yourself. If you do spot a tick, blah, blah, blah. We've gone through all of this stuff before. So, um, yeah. Again, this is really pretty freaky. They are, I know in my area, as I said before, doing what they call culling the deer, which essentially means they're killing the deer because of the threat with them. And certainly they're not the only animal that uh, deers feed that ticks feed upon, but they're one of the primary ones. So it is really really unfortunate. And I also think that because population has become so large, that the deer population it doesn't have anywhere to go. Um, I know that at least in my neighborhood, I grew up. There was a woods behind my house. There was a woods to the left of my house from where I'm sitting right now, and there was a woods in front of my house. That is all gone. Um, Having lived on and off in the same neighborhood for really just basically my whole life, I've seen more deer pop up for sure. And here's an interesting tactic, and this is as a nutritionist something that we study. There is a really great book called "You Are What You Eat," and you are what you eat eats. So let me explain that for a second. This is part of the reason why we're so adamant in the world of nutrition. If you do consume meat, to make sure it comes from the cleanest sources possible, because the sad thing is that the health of an animal when you consume it can possibly affect your own health. So think about an animal who is raised in a factory farm, who has been kept in a cage, who is constantly fed antibiotics. Those types of unfortunate things that happen in factory farming, which do not happen in organic farming, are of a huge concern. So if you're eating an animal that's sick, don't you think that's going to make you sick? And that's a huge theory in nutrition. So that's why I'm always asking people to get um, clean sources of animal products as much as humanly possible if that's something that you do consume. So that raises a question with deer. If they're bitten by ticks who are infected. Now, I understand that ticks are a host, and there are some articles that say that no, just because the tick would wind up getting bit by a deer, evidently they have some sort of immunity to Lyme and they would be okay. I wonder if that's true for co-infections, but, I'm a pretty adventurous eater. You would not catch me eating a deer. I don't think it's a good idea. Um, Unless there was a famine or something, I would not be doing that. Again, respect to people who are vegans who may not agree with my eating viewpoints. Here, I certainly don't want to rock the boat. I do believe in bioindividuality, which means that everybody's body is different. I happen to require a fair amount of protein, and I do get a lot of it not only from vegetarian sources, but from animal sources as well, but clean animal sources as much as I possibly can. So, excuse me, I would wager to bet probably not a good idea to be eating venison at this point in time, especially if you live in a tick-infested area, which, let's just get real here. It's all over the United States. So, something really important to bring up. So, yeah, so guys, that's the three topics I wanted to go through with you all today. One, Under Our Skin, again, available till midnight, May 10th. So please check that out. If not, you can check it out on YouTube. I believe it's very inexpensive, about $2.99 to go ahead and rent that. I highly recommend that movie. If you've not seen Under Our Skin 1, go back, watch that first, and then watch 2. Beautiful documentary. Features Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt and some of his patients, in addition to some other practitioners like Dr. Alan McDonald. He's got a really great story, and he was also a pioneer. Was also a pioneer in Lyme. So God bless him. Dr. Ray Jones Charles, who's helped pediatric patients with Lyme. It talks about a lot of crazy stuff going on there. So that's one. Two, we talked about I would not donate blood if you had Lyme disease. Again, I'm a medical professional, but this is my personal opinion based on research that I have done. And I would probably not go ahead and donate organs as a result of that, unfortunately. It's sad, but true. Like I said, I actually removed my organ donor thing off my license today. Um, you can donate my organs to medical science, to somebody who's actually studying Lyme. Please go ahead and do that. I would love to see what someone would find at some point in time. Hopefully, they have more information on that before my lifespan has expired. So, that's an interesting one. In addition to that, obviously, this article with USA Today talking about the deer population and how that's contributing to Lyme spreading. One final thought on that. I do believe and have read articles also that Lyme is spreading as well due to global warming, which I'm a very big believer in. I've watched the weather change in my almost 40 years on the planet, and I find that it's pretty crazy that our weather patterns are so extreme, which means the ticks can live longer. They are coming out earlier and they are leaving later. Here in New York, we've had some pretty interesting weather. It seems like the weather is behind. I do a lot of research on Alaska and other places up north, and their weather patterns have changed too, to the point where the seasons are off by about 3 weeks, and they've noticed a change with that. And again, there's more extreme in the weather. There's more hot and then cold. If the ground does not freeze, ticks can go ahead and survive with that. We had a fairly mild winter here in New York with a couple of sprinkly, very cold days, and it's expected that we were going to have a pretty warm summer this year. So I'm interested to see how that pans out with the tick population. So guys, please be careful, of course, as I always ask. And that's my Lyme news for this evening for Lyme Disease Awareness Month. I hope you guys are all doing well, and everybody that finds this informative. Please hit the subscribe button below or pass this on. We'd like to pass information on to as many Lyme patients and people wanting to learn about Lyme as possible. I appreciate the viewership, everybody, and I hope you guys all have a great night or day wherever you're coming to me from. Mwah. Love you guys. Take care. Bye bye.